What's going on, everybody? It's good to see you all. And today we're going to be talking about the I-57 project. Now, this one's probably going to be a little bit shorter than some of the ones that we've done before. We're going to be kind of knocking this one out pretty quick. The route's pretty short, but it's got all eyes on target. And so, in a nutshell, this is probably the one that's most likely to get done out of the infrastructure bill, in my honest opinion and my assessment, because there's a lot of eyes on it. Half of it is, actually more than half of it's already kind of done. And so in a general sense here, what I just expect is that because of the price tag, because of the importance, and because of what we're talking about here in a long regard, is that this is going to get knocked out in a pretty quick way. And we'll probably see this one wrapped up by like 2025 if any real funding goes to these projects, unless Arkansas is going to absolutely dump money into I-49 instead, which is a little hard for me to believe. Not only for the actual accessibility of Arkansas, but also in the money that is going to be spent on these particular projects. So let's bring this up and let's tell you guys what is up here. And where's my photo here? There we go. So this is a little hard to see. I apologize. We've stretched it out quite a bit. Here's the general route as it goes. It goes through southern Missouri and then takes an L and then goes all the way down to Little Rock. And it is an extension. We already actually have an I-57, and I'll show you guys like what we're talking about here in just a second. But in a general sense, is that all you need to know about this particular route is this. Now, I've refreshed this a couple of times, but this is Sikeston, Missouri, right? It's a little nice place here, Sikeston, Missouri. And this is where I-57 ends right now. And I'll talk about where I-57 originally operates, but you have two choices. You can go down the I-55 corridor all the way down to just outside of Memphis, and then you can meet with I-40 and then go over to Little Rock. Well, that's literally almost every way south. Well, I'm going to tear this off here in a second, but you can notice here that this alternative route is shorter and it has the same amount of time. Now, I have checked this quite a few times because I went down to Texas recently, and I actually took the other route. I took this route, and I've refreshed this a couple of times. The biggest I've seen is a 20-minute difference between here and here, and that's really kind of crazy. But between traffic conditions and what we're talking about here, in particular I-55, I-40, is that these roads get so clogged that it slows everything down. And almost every time I would check this route here is that, in a nutshell, what would generally happen would be that there would be a car accident almost every time, somewhere in here. Somewhere between this interchange here and this interchange here, there would be a car accident. It would slow everything down. And either it was time comparable to go to the alternative route, or it was even longer at some points. So, in a nutshell, this is the route that they want to take. Now, here's the good news. Zoom out. Most of it's already done. Now, I'm going to bring up this particular map, and I know not everyone's a big fan of this, but it'll show you. The US 67 167, or US 67, in Arkansas is upgraded to expressway all the way up to Walnut Ridge, and everything in Missouri of the US 160 route all the way from its inception point here on I-57 to Poplar Bluff is 2-lane divided highway. They just have to upgrade some of these county roads to be multi-level interchanges, and some of them are, some of them aren't. They're going to have to piss off a few people, but they absolutely can do that without much. And then there's about a 40-mile segment here within Arkansas that they're going to have to tie in, and about a 10-mile segment here within Missouri that they're going to have to tie in. That they'll have to build out as largely new highway or upgrade the existing highway. But once they're done with that, this is actually going to be easy for them to do, and they can call this project complete. So just to show you on the main lap here, this is all this expressway here. It goes to Walnut Ridge, and then it just stops. And then they're going to have to build. There's a couple of different projects that they want to do. They're considering where they're going to go up around this place called Corning, and then all the way up to Harville, which is where this interstate quality road largely ends. But it is absolutely something that they're willing to do and that they're very interested in doing. And I definitely expect in the future that to be the case. And there's a lot of eyes on this. So let's talk about where I-57 originally is. Well, I-57 is basically an I-55 bypass. I-55 goes from Chicago down to St. Louis, down to Memphis, right? And you'll notice that I-57 just randomly ends. I-57 is basically a bypass route for I-55 to go straight down to the south into Memphis. It does pick up a few things along the way. It gets stops by Effingham, Mount Vernon, particularly Champaign is really what it is. But it does intersect some major highways that allows it to be a major corridor. And actually, this place was pretty damn busy when I drove it. Granted, I don't usually drive 57. This is the first time I actually have. But from what I understand and what I've seen when I go off to Effingham or Mount Vernon, is that it's a pretty busy corridor because it has many interchange routes here with I-74. I-72 isn't super busy, but that's probably going to change in the years to come. I-70 is packed, and I-64 is actually one of the slowest interstates we have in the country. But it allows to also intersect with I-24, which gives it access to Nashville. And this is actually a little bit of a bypass for Nashville, but most of everything goes up the I-65 route. I-57, I-24 is a nice bypass because I-65 is packed, and I-57 is a decent alternative route. But here's what they really want to do. This is why all eyes are on deck. Once you L this off and you put this together, this is a major corridor route to get into the South. Because right now, throughout the entirety of Arkansas, there's no good ways to get south. It's literally I-55 on one side of the state, or I-49, which isn't done, which we already talked about in the last episode, so go check that out if you haven't. So yeah, you're either going all the way to I-44, I-35 in Oklahoma to get down into Texas, or you're going down I-55 at minimum to Memphis. And this is just causing massive traffic congestion in here. I don't know if this is 3-lane or not. We're going to check. Well, I mean, you can just see it. You can absolutely see it here on this particular photo or satellite photo. We've got a lot of traffic here where this all bleeds together, and it's all shipping in to cross over. Now, don't get me wrong. There's plenty of traffic that also goes this other way to I-55 down on I-40, but everything wants to go down that route. And that's the problem, is that it's basically bottlenecking everything going south, and it's providing a lot of... Basically, the long story short is that because of the the difficulty in ease of communication, is that a lot of these places are not accessible in the way that they could be to have an economic infrastructure to build out in a particular way that would be beneficial to this whole area. Because once you get out off the Ozark Plateau here, around Newport, you're in some pretty good territory. You can build out stuff, and it's very beautiful lands. When I drove through it, it's quite nice. Anyway, make a long story short, let me just put this all into perspective for you. This is relatively cheap compared to almost any other project. Most of it's already technically done, as we talked about here. And so the better part of about a 60-mile stretch needs to be completed. But once that is done, you have a primary bypass route, and I've already shown that this is already an alternative viable route for anyone who wants to take it, because it literally is the same amount of time, or just shy of the same amount of time. It's a little bit longer sometimes. As again, the longest I've seen is 20 minutes when I was looking at it. It's not bad highway. The only stretch that really is a pain in the balls here is US 62 out of Patanochus and going up into Corning and Elyville, and then once you get to this intersection here. Everything else is great to drive on. I wouldn't want to drive it in a truck, personally. That would suck, because I hate two-lane road, or I hate one-way each way roads for trucking. That's just never fun, particularly if you have to stop. But if you got divided highway, you're good to go. And this US 67, once it opens up here at Walnut Ridge, it is 75-mile-an-hour zone for pedestrian vehicles and 70 for trucks. It is an absolute blast. And if you can get all of this ready to go, you're going to cut 20 minutes off that trip. And so I-57, you might actually see more traffic come off of I-55 and go down this route. And this will open up economic access into the corridor, and you may even see, to some degree, a petition to transition I-30 into I-57, or vice versa. I don't think they'll actually rename it personally, because I-30 has been around forever, but I-30 is effectively an extension of I-57 at that point, and you're going to have a basically an expressway from Dallas to Chicago with really no major barriers in the way. You don't get me wrong, you'll have to pass through a couple of places, but this is absolutely going to benefit the economic development of Arkansas, southern Missouri, and building out ties between the Midwest and the Texas Triangle. Absolute win. And when we get more of these projects online, such as the I-69 project, we're only going to see this multiply and get even stronger. Remind you, the I-69 has been the major project for a lot of these areas because they want to get around Memphis and they want to provide an alternative route into the south, and particularly Houston. But that's a lot more money and it's a lot more work to be done. But this, out of the blue, has become a major thoroughfare route where people are like, wait, we can do this. We can do it on the cheap. We can do it easy. And we're good to go. So, yeah, this one's largely going to be short and simple and sweet. And I apologize that I don't have a lot more content for you. But I'll put it this way. The Arkansas part of the expansion route is under the planning stage right now. They're just talking about which corridor they want to use. I guess I can show you guys that real quick as far as what they're wanting it to do. You see this green area here? That's technically a national park, or at least a state park. And so they don't really want to touch it. But what they've got two routes. One is to largely go with US 67. So they're largely, instead of going to use this, they'll turn it. And they'll go around College City here with this airfield. And they'll go up around and then parallel 62, might even integrate parts of it. Go up around Corning and then tie back in. The other way is paralleling this US 34, or I'm sorry, not US. This is Arkansas 34 and Arkansas 90. So that you can go around here and they'll basically go around this state park and then they'll cut across this little place called the Black River here. And then go up, and they'll largely tie in. The Missouri side of this is almost all earmarked to be part of the upgrade. They're just going to literally tear out the old highway. They'll build a few bypasses, like right in here, I think they're talking about. They don't want to have to tear out some of these humps in place. But outside of that, they'll tie in like right back here, and they're wanting to just upgrade this all to interstate, all the way up into this point here. And so the blueprint's largely done. They're just finalizing the plans. They're trying to make it work. And then they'll have to secure funding. And I'm telling you, if Arkansas gets any money at all, the Arkansas side of this is going to get done. If they get it from any of that from the infrastructure bill. I do see them putting some money in I-49, but now that the Buena Vista bypass is done, this is top priority. This is okay, and the reason why is there's so much political pressure here. So not only does Arkansas federally want this, Missouri federally wants this, Illinois surprisingly is on board with this because this means that there's more economic interaction with Southern Illinois, which is something that they want, even though Chicago rules the state. Indiana, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really care too much. It's a little outside of our metrics. We're largely focused on the I-69 project and pushing that. But Kentucky isn't really on board with this. We're largely pushing the I-69. But here's the deal. Tennessee is working on I-69, but that's a lot of money out of their pocket. And what they're concerned with is all of the traffic that's trying to flood in through Memphis, particularly on I-55 and I-40. And if they can even have remotely a bypass route that is significantly cheaper, even if another state has to pay for it, or especially if another state has to pay for it, then all the better. So Tennessee is actually pushing this. Because while they are building I-69, and they will eventually get it done sooner or later because everyone's got eyes on them to do it, is that this provides an easy access ability for them to finish it off. And one of the things that actually I've been hearing, but I cannot confirm, is that Mississippi is actually pushing this project because a lot of states are pushing Mississippi to start their end of I-69, and Mississippi's just not interested. Mississippi is the only state that really doesn't care about I-69, and I don't blame them. It doesn't really give them much of anything. Arkansas wouldn't mind doing that or being part of the I-69 project, but they've got the I-57 extension, which will make them buku cash, and then the I-49 project, which makes a lot more sense for them. I-69 is going to be the last project. And so, Texas is going to push this because this means more interactions with the Texas Triangle and northern Texas in particular. So they're absolutely on board with this. Louisiana doesn't really care. So yeah, in a general sense, this is what we're looking at, and this is the general outline here. The next project, of course, is going to be the big one. It's I-69, and holy crap. I could talk about I-69 for a while. I'm just debating on how much I'm actually going to drop into that one because that is a project and a half. But anyway, without further ado, I've been Tyberius D. This has been the future I-57 project and what that maintains, and this will most likely be the project done. If you have any questions, you have any comments, definitely leave them down below. Tag at me, and we'll catch you next time. And next video absolutely is going to be the I-50 or ID-69 project. And oh boy, that's going to be a doozy. So we'll catch you later. Have a good one, guys.